Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
There are over 117,000 gang members in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, I made it to my stop back in the hood. Ran into somebody on the bus that know me though.
Oh yeah?
What's up, little bro?
Shit, it's an honor.
It's an honor. I appreciate the love. He like, man, ain't you one of the twins? I'm like, yeah, I'm on the bus, bro. It's like, man, they talk about you all the way. Where they be talking about me at?
Yeah, Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Minnesota. Man, they talk about you all the way at Minnesota, Minneapolis. I appreciate the love of Minnesota, Minneapolis. Salute to all my soldiers, man. Stay humble, stay peaceful, man. But I'm enjoying this one thing they call life, man. This one life we live, I'm gonna make sure I enjoy it to the fullest, man. But I'm reaching to my stop. That's why I used to rock in them projects on 63rd Kings Drive where I'm pulling up at, popping off the bus. All right, holla at you, little bro.
I forgot where my buddy stay at.
Oh, he stay in Old Block? 64. Okay, yeah. I'm going over here anyway.
I'm known in Chicago and throughout a lot of states as the twin, or quote unquote the Bentley twin, because me and my twin brother, we drove Bentleys.
Hey, they talk about trading the beat to get the R. That don't beat me. You know what I'm saying? I've been a star of this city, you heard me? I don't want to be fucking around, man.
Me personally, I was in the game from the age of like 12 due to my twin brother already being a part of the gang itself. And my brother was hanging out with a different gang, which was called the Gangster Disciples. I was hanging with the Black Disciples. We were actually fighting the Gangster Disciples. So I had to tell my brother, hey, look, you have to pick a side. You know, if you're gonna stay over there, things can go bad for you.
I grew up out of the Calumet building, which is on 62nd and Calumet. The building's gone now. And this is our born and raised block, the BD's headquarters. We had good memories, bad memories. We lost a lot of good guys on this block. We cried a lot of tears on this block. You know, we was poor, super poor on this block.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb. We headed to the shop with it. Y'all know we stay on the south side. Meet us at the old Randolph Towers or 6217 South Calumet. I'm learning how to pronounce these streets fucking with y'all. Now, we ain't gonna do a whole lot of riff-raffing with this one. Today, we are gonna be covering arguably two of the most recognizable, probably two of the most respected old gangsters coming from Chicago. And when I say old these days, we're going to be talking about the 90s. And just as these boys' names rang bells in the 1990s, it's still ringing bells almost 3 decades later. And the guys that I'm talking about is going to be a set of brothers by the name of Varney and Varmah Voker. Or we can call them the infamous BD twins. Or we can call them what they now go by, the Bentley twins. It really don't matter to me what y'all want to call them, but they are only going to be part of, at the time, I would say one of the most notorious generations of the Black Disciples. And that was going to be pretty much the Black Disciples from 1988 going on to 2014, right around when they had a little brush with the law. And on top of that, I'm going to try to break down how this generation of Black Disciples was the entrepreneurial generation. And that's not to say that the Black Disciples wasn't making money before this generation. I'm just going to say that this generation took it to a whole nother level. Now, it's not a whole lot of information regarding the twins online, but I did watch a few interviews where they talk about how they grew up in 2 separate households, how they had a dad who lived across town who had a very structured environment. I remember one of the two talking about how he was of African descent and how they knew that they could expect 3 meals a day when they went over to their dad's house, but it was a whole different situation when they were at their mom's house, who lived in a place called a Calumet building that was on 62nd and Calumet. I seen them talking about early on when staying at their mom's house, it was a struggle to find a meal, and you would get it any way that you know how. I saw where one brother said if he was stealing hot dogs, the other brother was stealing potatoes. So they grew up really, really young, scrapping and fighting to try to get it. And they joined the gang at a very young age, as early as 12. I saw in interviews where they would tell stories about how they remember seeing their mom and the sisters of theirs hustling just to do anything they can to try to get by to make some money. They referenced selling weed. And based on everything, it looks like that had a huge effect and took a toll on the twins really up into this day, because they're still two hustling ass dudes. Now, early on, I mentioned that this was probably the most lucrative generation of the Black disciples. And I think I mentioned from 91 to 2004. And those dates are going to be important because I really want to label that the crack generation, because even though crack came on the scene a few years prior to 1991, it was really still at its height right in around that time. And it will be at that time when a guy by the name of Marvell Thompson, who is a very, very important person in BD history and somebody that we definitely going to bring a Mobb ties to you about, but he would take over the organization right around then. And according to the federal authorities, he had a very close relationship with the BD twins. I only really see where they labeled them as high-ranking members in the gang. But under Marvell Thompson's leadership, they're going to say that the gang profited as much as $300,000 per day, which they would take the profits and they would launder it with investments. Authorities would also bring up a rap label called Mobb, a car wash and a nightclub in Atlanta, that they would say that the BD twins had very close ties to. I even seen some places where they said that they were the ones that owned it. So if that don't tell you how much money that they were getting or how much control they had over the South Side, according to the Chicago Tribune, they would say that the gang effectively took over a 16-story Chicago Housing Authority building, posting snipers on the roof to protect dealers, as they made upwards of $45,000 per day. And according to the federal government, they're going to say that that went on for a very, very long time, from right around 1991 to the date that I mentioned in 2004. And on May 13, 2004, the Chicago Tribune would publish an article titled U.S. Hits Drug Empire, where they would detail the indictment that the gang would be hit with, where it was more than 40 defendants, and it was a 145-page indictment. Prosecutors would go on to liken it to the investigation that they had on the gangster disciples, whose drug dealing operations on the South Side reached unparalleled levels of organization and extended to political activities before their leadership was essentially brought down and convicted in the 1990s. Now, federal authorities would make big mention of a building called the Castle, where they would determine to be the home base of the gang. At the time of the raid, they would say authorities would be wielding shotguns, wearing helmets as they raided the red brick Randolph Towers housing complex where the gang had been based. And after the raids was all said and done, they said authorities would pull upwards of $300,000 out of that building. So like I said earlier, this was definitely going to be one of, if not the most lucrative generations of the Black disciples. And the BD twins had a lot to do with that. And their impact is still being felt because they came home. They're making a positive impact on the community. They're running businesses. You might have seen one of them on Love and Hip Hop not too long ago. And if anybody is familiar with Little Durk and OTF, you would know the close affiliation that the BD twins have with them. If anybody remembers when Tiger and Game dropped the song Chirac to LA, Game would get on the song trying to attack Little Durk, and he would name drop several names, and some of those names was Bump J, but it was also the BD Twins, and the BD Twins would go on to show that their alliance with Little Durk, so they're still prevalent out in the streets in the game today. It's really, if you talk about people that are Chicago, you know we got Larry Hoover, you know we got Jeff Fort, you know we got Fluky Stokes, you know we got Willie Lloyd. I would name the BD Twins in that generation right after those gangsters. Now, y'all know what it is with me. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. I finally got a chance to get to the BD Twins. I've been getting hundreds of requests to do them since 2016, right around when I started popping this off. So I knew the story was still playing out, figured the time was right. But y'all definitely let me know who else we need to cover, what stories we missed, what cities we haven't been to. And y'all hit the red subscribe right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. And I'm going to be back with some more. Mobb.